pain, misery, rough, abusive, because that's the journey to winning, and that's the endless journey, the endless cycle, because it is tough. Okay, we know we have to, as he would say it, get back on that bus, go back through hell, get back to paradise.
That was great, but it didn't fully satisfy me. And now I need to continue to do the things that I did before to feel that again. You win and everybody around you wins. But then he said, on the opposite spectrum, that obsession is when you win and everybody around you loses.
Matt Weaver, the #1 mortgage originator in the United States for most loans closed in 2023 and #1 in the state of Florida from 2020 to present, has spent over 27 years mastering the purchase market, earning more than 16 #1 titles across his career. Max Fisch, 2024's #1 originator in the United States under 30 and #2 in the state of Florida, achieved those titles within just 5 years of entering the mortgage industry, compressing decades of growth into a few extraordinary years. Collectively, they've helped more than 40,000 families purchase their first home. Now partners and looking to improve the industry on a national scale, Matt and Max share their winning formula, team structure, and systems with originators who want to scale from elite to extraordinary levels.
Matt, we're back.
We are back, my friend. What'd you think of Laguna Beach?
Laguna Beach was it was incredible. Like the weather, the ocean with the cliffs, and we even got to go to the court that's famous for where Kobe Bryant's played and he frequented, and Michael Jordan. I mean, it was just, for me, it was nostalgic. I loved it.
Well, we talked about that when we first were thinking about partnering together. We said, look, you were going to win no matter what to a high level and at a high level. But, okay, joining together, perhaps it's a Jordan and Kobe situation where you're just going to win a lot faster.
Yeah.
And so I felt it was apropos to take you to the court right there on the beach, which I thought, what a great, like kind of nostalgic moment there when you think about all the great players that have been playing on that court. And of course, then spending time with his direct personal coach, Mr. Tim Grover.
Isn't that crazy?
And that wild, it all kind of connected together. So it's interesting because we talked about having a lot more exposure and partnering together.
Yeah.
And it's, I've been pretty close to Tim Grover for the past, I want to say 5 years, and him having that private mastermind. Okay. I think there was maybe about 10 or 15 of us in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think we all learned a lot from each other, didn't we?
Yeah. I mean, I got to tell you, my exposure since us partnering together has just been like through the roof. I mean, I've been in front of more real estate agents that I have in my entire career combined, been in front of more professionals and people that are just, I never thought that I'd be in a room with. I mean, talk about imposter syndrome. So it was just a really cool time. And it was a really cool time to challenge our thinking.
Right.
Because Tim Grover, who you just mentioned, I mean, not only was he the trainer for Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant for decades, but he was the speaker at this event. And I think today what we want to do is just talk through some of those things that he went over with us. So, and he said some really powerful things.
And deep.
Oh
really.
My gosh. I mean, one of those was he noted that a champion is at his lowest point after his greatest win.
Yes.
So I know you have a lot to say about that. So I'll open the floor, and, I just think that was amazing.
Tim has a great way of speaking. It's interesting. He took winning and made it a third party, which I find so fascinating. He personified winning.
Yeah.
And so just taking it in that context just changes the entire deck. And for those that have won or are on the journey to winning and win at a high level, can really resonate and understand with what he means on that. But getting back to the point where a champion is at his or her lowest point after the greatest win, couldn't be more true. And the reason for that, I look back over the past few years and I say to myself, okay, so you won #1 in the nation. You won #1 in the state of Florida. You won #1 in the state of Florida again and all that. And I couldn't quite figure out or pinpoint, let's call it January 2nd, January 3rd of the following year, knowing that you just won, why there was a little bit of a low point there. But as Tim was describing it, it really hit me dead in the chest, which is, okay, we know we have to, as he would say it, get back on that bus, go back through hell, get back to paradise. And I guess I didn't really think of it that way, but him illustrating it that way, that's what it is. And that's what he means. Because, as he clearly states, which I couldn't agree more, he says, if you were to ask 10 or 15 people that have never really won anything in their life, what does winning mean to them? They'll sit here and tell you champagne, confetti, parades, celebrations, partying. But yet, if you ask 10 or 15 people that have won at a high level and continue to win at a high level, they'll describe it like this: pain, misery, um, rough, abusive, because that's the journey to winning. And that's the endless journey, the endless cycle, because it is tough. It is brutal. And you know that in your short stint of being in this industry, you've won as well. Okay. And you know what that looks like. And so after that year ends, for us, our seasons are 1 year long. For a basketball player, it's a season, however many months that is for a football player, etc. So after our season ends, which is a calendar year, okay, we look at the scoreboard, we see where we are, and then we know we got to go right back to it.
Well, it's funny because the way that I interpreted that was in addition to what you just mentioned, because that's so true. And he writes that in his book that's right there on that shelf. Right. But the way that I interpreted that, and I think we've all experienced it, is, we're fighting so hard to get to the win, whatever the win is. That can look different for everybody. But we get there and it almost like quenches that thirst, but then you get thirsty again.
Sure.
And then you're at this point to where it's like, okay, well, that was great, but it didn't fully satisfy me. And now I need to continue to do the things that I did before to feel that again.
Yep.
Right. And so it just kind of is this vicious cycle that it almost, you win, but it also brings you right back down to where you want to do it again and again. It's like an addictive drug, right?
Right.
In a way. But it's funny because in order to win, he mentioned something else. One of his other quotes were that obsession is clarity.
Yes.
And it's almost as if you have to be obsessed with the goal in the win, right? And so when he elaborated on obsession is clarity, it's so true. And he has a way about himself to kind of say oxymoronic things, right? To where it's like the opposite of what you would think, because a lot of people would consider obsession being madness, right? But when he says obsession is clarity, we understood that at a deep level. And we talked about that.
Yeah, what I've noticed in my journey of self-improvement is typically when you're around those who have achieved a lot of success, whether you've read their memoir, their book, watched a documentary, or had the good fortune of spending time with people like that, what you end up noticing is that they typically tend to think the opposite of the mass, which is why they stand out so much.
Mhm.
So Tim, of course, is the direct, he's diametrically opposed to almost anything of conventional wisdom when you stop and think about it.
Yeah.
Conventional wisdom, obsession is not a good thing. Tim Grover words, obsession is clarity. So let's wrap our mind around that a little bit further. Obsession is clarity. Okay, so for an originator that wants to hit extraordinary level of success or levels of success in the industry, they have to be obsessed with it. They have to be obsessed with their process. They have to be obsessed with their presentation. They have to be obsessed with their value proposition. They have to be obsessed with what it is that they're doing, which is the only way of achieving high levels. And I mean, when I say high levels, I'm talking about winning rings, winning championships. What are winning rings and championships? Winning your state, that's a ring. Winning in the nation, that's a big ring. Okay. But in order to get there, you have to be obsessed. And obsession really is clarity. It's clear. It's not madness. Okay. It's not messy. You know what your goal is. You know what you're looking to do. So it's really well put. And I happen to agree with it tenfold.
Yeah. And then he went on to say, if you recall, that, there's good obsession and there's bad obsession. And I think that's important for our listeners to hear, right? Because good obsession, he describes it as it you win and everybody around you wins. But then he said on the opposite spectrum, bad obsession is when you win and everybody around you loses. And then he went on to say, but eventually you will lose as well.
That's right.
Which I just thought that was next level.
Oh, dead in the chest. So let's think about that. Good obsession, you win and everyone else around you wins. So we get back to the great originators that are perhaps listening, okay? You're obsessed with your line of work. You're scaling, you're growing your business, you're doing everything right. You're winning. Well, typically your spouse is winning, your children are winning. Those around you, perhaps you're supporting a parent, they're winning. Everyone around you is also winning while you're winning. Bad obsession, sadly you hear about, whether it be drugs, alcohol, or what have you, someone feels that they're winning in that circumstance, but everyone around them is actually losing, but eventually they're going to lose too because it's a bad obsession.
Yeah.
So there's good obsession, there's bad obsession. I think it's an important characteristic. In fact, I know it's an important characteristic to succeed in anything at a high level. My son plays basketball. Okay, he plays for his JV team, for the JV team at his high school. Watch, if he wants to go to college for that sport, he has to be wildly obsessed. So it's within everything that we do, and you know that better than anyone, especially the athletic background that you have.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a common theme, and we always point it back towards, our life experiences and how you can pull from athletics and bring it over to business. And really, anybody who's exceeded at anything to an extraordinary level you just mentioned, there was an obsession there. And so, what I would do is I would encourage originators. Let's focus on the origination realm for a second, and I would encourage originators to be obsessed with what you're doing if you want to excel at a high level. But make sure that you're obsessed on the business building activities, the things that are yielding high results, and make sure that your obsession is impacting others around you in a positive way, because it's important to understand that it's not just obsession, in a vacuum. There's also bad obsession, right? And if you're being led into a bad obsession, bad habits, things that are negatively impacting your family and those around you, it's very important to know. And that's why Originate for Life is so important, because you can be obsessed with your lane and what you're passionate about, but you can also have your life, which we've talked about at length. I encourage originators that are listening to this to keep that in mind.
Oh, without a doubt. Think about it. For the originator that's listening today, I can understand they're probably thinking to themselves, how can I be obsessed when I'm in every part of the origination cycle? And there's the challenge. You see, like, for example, I'm obsessed with what I'm doing every day, and I know that you are too. But we're in the lane that we love to do,
1000%.
which is why we wanted to create Originate for Life, a platform for those that would be perhaps interested so they can plug into a specific lane that they too are obsessed with. I mean, watch, we only have so much bandwidth here. We only have so much tolerance, and we only have so much passion for one lane, I believe, of the origination cycle. So once we identify that lane, so for example, you and I are rainmakers. I think it's fair to say we're wildly obsessed with making it rain for the team. Do you agree?
Yes.
But then our great advisors are wildly obsessed, of course, with home buyer consultations, etc.
These are good obsessions.
Oh, these are great obsessions. And so it's hard, I know, for some that are listening that are kind of in all these different lanes, right? How can I be obsessed with it? I don't love this one part of the process. So it's important for originators, whether they're looking to join a team or they want to build their own, as they're building out their process, to identify what lane do they love, figure out how they can build a delegation process around it so they can stay in that lane and be wildly obsessed.
Well, Matt, let's thank Tim Grover for this episode.
That's right.